when she left without a fight. I didn't raise my voice when she said she wanted to go. There were no tears, no begging, not even a single question. I just nodded. It caught her off guard. She'd probably rehearsed for an argument, maybe even a dramatic moment where she could play the calm, reasonable one. But I simply stood there and said, "All right, if that's what you want." Her name was Rachel, and for nearly 3 years she was the rhythm of my days. We met in a coffee shop when I was 28, both of us surviving on caffeine and unfinished dreams. What started with teasing over playlists and coffee orders slowly turned into dinners, late-night movies, and that easy kind of comfort that makes you believe you've finally found peace. For a while, she was my home, until she wasn't. When the distance started, it didn't happen all at once. First came the canceled plans, then the colder messages, then those hugs that didn't feel like they used to, too brief, too polite. You can sense it before anyone admits it, when someone's already halfway gone. One night, I saw her smiling at her phone longer than usual. When I asked who it was, she said, "Just a friend from work." I didn't argue, but something in me went quiet after that. By the time she said she needed space, I had already accepted it. I didn't pack her things. I didn't ask for mine. Didn't block her, didn't stalk her socials. I just faded out of her story, the same way she had been fading from mine. The silence that followed. The first few months felt strange. I'd still expect her name to flash across my phone. Sometimes I'd wake up at 2 a.m., half dreaming she was still there beside me. But reality was quiet, and eventually, that quiet became familiar. I filled the silence with work. Longer hours. More time at the gym. I started reading again, something I hadn't done since we'd moved in together. A year passed that way. One calm, uneventful day after another. The message. Then, one afternoon, a mutual friend texted me. "Hey, just thought you should know, Rachel's engaged." I stared at the message for a long time. Not angry. Not surprised. Just still. Apparently, she was marrying that same friend from work. That night, I poured myself a drink and sat on the balcony, watching the city lights breathe in the dark. I tried to picture her wedding, her smile, her dress, the man beside her. I expected to feel bitterness, maybe even jealousy. But instead, I felt relief. Relief that I hadn't begged someone who was already walking away. Relief that I hadn't lost myself trying to keep her. Life moves in loops. They say closure ends things, but it doesn't. It circles back. About a year after I heard about her engagement, I got a Facebook message. "Hey, can we talk?" It was her. I didn't reply right away. It had been almost 2 years since we'd last spoken, but seeing her name again stirred something faint and familiar. When I clicked her profile, she looked the same, maybe a little more tired around the eyes. No photos of her husband. No ring in sight. 2 days later, I finally wrote back. "Sure, what's up?" She said she wanted to meet. Just coffee. To catch up. Part of me was curious. Another part warned me not to reopen what had already healed. But curiosity won. The reunion. A week later, we met at the same coffee shop where it had all started. She was already there, same corner, same seat. When she saw me, she smiled, that half grin that used to melt me without effort. "Hey," she said softly. "You look different." "I guess time does that," I replied. There was a pause, long enough to feel heavy. Then came the small talk, work, friends, the safe topics people use when the truth is too sharp. Finally, she exhaled and said quietly, "I wanted to say I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left the way I did." I didn't respond. She kept talking. I thought what I had with him was real. But it wasn't. It fell apart in less than a year. He cheated on me with someone at work. Her eyes dropped to the table. I guess I got what I deserved. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I took a sip of coffee, mostly to buy time. Her words lingered between us. Cheating, regret, betrayal. Only this time they came from her mouth. "I'm sorry, Lucas," she said again, quieter now. I nodded, but forgiveness didn't come. There was a time when her tears could have undone me, but that man no longer existed. Her regret, my calm. She kept explaining how she'd been confused, how things just happened, how she thought she was chasing happiness. Every word sounded like an excuse I had once told myself just to understand why she left. "I know I hurt you," she whispered. "I just hope you're okay now." That made me smile, not from joy but disbelief. Because for the first time, I realized I truly was okay. I looked at her, really looked. And I saw it clearly. The woman sitting across from me wasn't the same one I'd once loved. Or maybe I had changed so much that the illusion finally broke. I was hurt, I said quietly. But I'm not anymore. She blinked, maybe expecting something deeper a way back in. But I didn't offer one. What was left unsaid? We talked a little longer. About the past, about how she'd moved back in with her parents for a while. She said she'd been thinking about us, that she finally realized I had treated her better than she deserved. When I stood to leave, she reached for my hand. Her fingers brushed mine. Maybe we could start over sometime? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. I paused, staring at her hand, the same one I once would have held without hesitation. But the silence between us said everything. I think we already ended where we were supposed to, I said. Her eyes filled with tears. You really won't even try? I did, I replied. Back when it mattered. And I left her there, sitting in that same cafe, surrounded by the ghost of what used to be love. Real peace. Stepping into the cool evening air, I felt a kind of peace I hadn't known I was missing. Not the peace that comes from getting someone back, the peace that comes from realizing you no longer need them. That night, she texted again. I wish I had understood you better. You were always too calm, too patient. I thought you didn't care. I didn't reply. Some messages don't need answers. They're just echoes of what's already gone. What healing really means. Over the next few months, I saw her name appear online a few times. Posts about healing, forgiveness, and starting over. I hoped she meant it. I didn't hate her. I just couldn't go back. Life moved on. I moved on. One evening, while cleaning up after dinner, I found an old photo of us in a drawer. We were laughing, caught mid-joke, younger and foolish enough to think love was simple. I looked at it for a moment before tossing it back. Not out of anger, just because it didn't hurt anymore. People talk about closure like it's a single moment, a grand conversation, a final goodbye. But real closure is quieter. It comes when you stop needing to prove anything. When you wake up and realize you've stopped replaying the what-ifs. That was me. I didn't hate her. I didn't love her. I simply remembered her as someone who once mattered. And maybe that's how most stories like ours end. Not with fireworks or revenge, but with silence. Two people who met, changed, and drifted apart. Sometimes love doesn't die in a fight. Sometimes it simply runs out.